Hey, what's up? Do you enjoy mechs, tanks, or hovercraft? Do you enjoy erasing people from existence when they don't pay their tax on time? Do you enjoy being a contractor for corpo and sucking the life force of people, buildings included? Then welcome to Brigador Up Armored Edition. Before we begin, I need you to take a look through the contract. Brigador is a twin-stick, top-down action shooter where you have a lot of options and ways to become the best white man denier. This includes mechs, tanks, and hovercraft of different sizes with different weapon mounts from anorexic to SSBBW. Pros and cons included for the vehicles as well. Tanks have speed boost and ram harder than the rest. Mechs can crouch for 50% damage reduction, can stomp and send you back to the Chinese Han Dynasty. Meanwhile, anti-gravs have a wet noodle called ground pound. Each vehicle has a hull, shield, overcharged shield that degenerates over time along with weapon mounts and a special slot. The special slot is designed for defensive or utility role, having unlimited ammo. There are 3 factions from where you can choose 3 types of vehicles. For more clarification, the Broodmare is a spacer mech of ultraweight class with a bonus to 25% damage resistance and very high melee damage. It's also equipped with a heavy and main hardpoint. The spacer vehicles have low hull and overcharge. This is traded for higher shields, giving you access to more strategies to use. The Toro Loyalist mech of heavyweight class is a beginner-friendly mech that has a main and turret hardpoint. Loyalist vehicles have high hull but low shields and overcharge. They are designed for stabbing someone in the ass. The Treehouse Corvette is somehow a tank of ultraweight class with 2 heavy hardpoints and bonus 25% damage resistance. Basically, the Corvette engineers were bored out of their mind, decided to have a contest of whose shaft is bigger and weld together cars and a tracked vehicle. Corvette vehicles encourage fast battles, just like a Zoomer ODing on energy drinks. The selling point of the anti-gravity vehicle is that they float and are unhindered by terrain, able to strafe and keep the frontal armor towards the enemy. There are also open canopy vehicles that receive more damage but are more maneuverable. As I said before, the weapons vary from small to heavy, the heavy being the loudest and having the biggest AoE. Each weapon hardpoint has cannons, machine guns, artillery, and lasers. Cannons are effective versus hull, buildings, and structures. They also can penetrate buildings and hit enemies behind them. Machine guns fire quick. The bigger ones can absolutely shatter hordes of enemies if used correctly. Artillery is generally considered the most effective, but the caveat is that it fires in an arc and are sensitive to the movement of your vehicle. Lasers are effective against all types, though some of them are very good at melting shields like soy butter. You heard that right? That's a word in the description of a weapon in the game. My favorite weapon compositions are the conic 30mm Gatling gun mixed with the soy butter, and a 105mm HE cannon Abbott with a 57mm HE rocket pod Pitbull, which has an autoloader, meaning fire until empty.
I'm a pioneer. I'm an explorer. I'm a human, and I'm coming. I'm animated. I'm alive. My heart's big. It's got hot blood going through it fast. I like to fight, too. I like to eat. I like to have children. I'm here. I got a life force. This is a human. This is what we look like.
To add more petrol to the fire, there's a 90mm shotgun called a Kraken that stacks 8 depleted uranium rods into a sailboat and fires them until everything is dead in front of you. The special slot has 4 utility weapons. These are Autokinetic Pulse, which unleashes a cone-shaped sound blast capable of destroying most buildings in one shot, including smaller enemies. Active Camouflage makes you invisible and silent. Smoke Projector fires a set of smoke grenades obscuring the enemy's line of sight, and the EMP grenade stuns enemies for 7 seconds and disables their shields. Did I forget something? Yes, horns. Horns exist to add existential dread for the civilians. Imagine this, a treehouse made out of cars, blowing all of its horns at you, shooting a 30mm chain gun at you, and mustard gas. Mustard gas, which by the way, can destroy buildings as well as tanks, mechs, and hovercraft. Now, let's switch to gameplay. You are John Brigador, tasked with subverting the control of the colony from the people back to the corpos. Why? Money. New weapons, vehicles, operations, and pilots are acquired through money. You get money depending on the amount of destruction and objectives you accomplish during a run. You can make your own build only in freelance mode, while in campaign mode you have a selection of vehicles that you can choose from. Your resources are limited. You can replenish your ammo either by going to an ammo depot or destroy enemy vehicles. The ammo depot must match the color of the weapon's icon. During a mission, you have no way of repairing your hull. Deal with it. You can replenish your shields by destroying enemies, except for the cannon fodder. The most effective way of acquiring money is to destroy substations, orbital guns, comms towers, ammo depots, and all enemies if possible. Destroying substations prevents the panic walls from raising during an alarm event or lowers them when already active. Ammo depots can also serve as a distraction because they explode when they're not empty. From what I have experienced, the orbital guns are the loudest when they are destroyed. Destruction of communication towers will result in hampering enemy coordination in a district. There are also additional structures that you can make use of, such as gas stations and other structures that can explode. Be careful around those. Some of my runs ended because I wasn't paying enough attention. Other buildings consist of office buildings, statues for showing the greatness of the leader, houses, gated communities surrounded by the homeless. Look at how beautiful the leveling looks. The buildings have layers of destruction upon firing on them. The houses turn into chunks, the enemies also turn into chunks, the sounds for the guns are meeting, and so on. If you pilot a mech and you see an object that is shorter than a mech, you can crouch behind it, use it as cover as well as shoot enemies from there. Frankly, I didn't use this mechanic a lot because running away from a losing confrontation has better benefits than being a sitting duck which receives damage continuously.
Fucking slaves, get your ass back here!
The terrain can also get in your way. There are patches of ground that slow you down if you're not in an anti-grav vehicle. Enemies have the same strengths and weaknesses as you when it comes to armor and shields as well as weapons. You've noticed during gameplay that weapons have an arc. Some enemies fly, which results in your shots missing if you aim too low. You need to aim at the height they're flying at. This mechanic can also be entirely bypassed by equipping a weapon that explodes on impact. For armor, the front is the strongest part while the sides are weaker. The rear is the juiciest part that you should aim for if you have the shot. The shields are weak against laser-based weapons. Let's move on to controls. The reason this game wasn't more popular was due to the way the controls were implemented in the game when it first released. The movement for vehicles was relative, meaning if you press forward, it will always translate to forward regardless of the unit's orientation. The same applies for the left and right. With the screen absolute setting, you don't have to worry about that as the forward will always translate to upward on screen. I'm going to show you my settings for movement that I use during gameplay sections, which are good enough for having fun. Of course, if this doesn't satisfy you, you can try other settings for movement control and torture yourself if you're into paying alimony for your ex-wife. The enemies come in a variety of flavors. For example, the spotter, as the name suggests, is an agile little gnat or an absolute unit of a bastard that will sound the alarm if you do not destroy them in 6 seconds when the comms tower is not destroyed. If destroyed, the response increases to 14-15 seconds. If you fail to destroy the spotters, the panic walls will raise, the enemies will activate their shielding, and reinforcements will come to your location. While the comms tower is destroyed, the reinforcement radius gets smaller and the alarms are easier to avoid. Captains are a higher grade of enemies that are a bit harder to kill. With a symbol on top of their head, they are a menace along with the standard enemies if the alarm has been rung. In some districts, turrets can appear which shoot once they see you. The enemy that gives me the most fear are the ones where they magically create a bomb vest for the squishy bipeds. It's possible that it comes out of their ass, for all I know. What I mean by this is that upon detection, the cannon fodder will run away, except for soldiers, and if that specific enemy exists in that district, they will start chasing you and won't stop until they ventilate your entire body from existence. Don't worry, there's also enemy vehicles that do a beeline for you and explode upon contact. These have shield and armor, which is way worse. Maybe I should call Vlad Tepes for some help. After all, this man is good at separating families and making a shawarma out of them. Buying new vehicles and pilots is beneficial for the payout multiplier. The higher it is, the more you get paid. You'll have to deal with more enemies as well as more dangerous ones. Choosing a pilot will determine the difficulty at the beginning of an operation as well as the faction you will go against. The difficulty increases depending on the length of the freelance operation and the successful completion of each district in an operation. You have to complete at least one district objective before you can go to another district. In other words, if you suck, you can run away. There is so much lore in the game, I don't even know where to start. You can find it in the description of pilots, weapons, enemies, and so on. If you're interested, there's also an audiobook that follows the story of several soldiers during the Great Leader's death. It's 7 hours and 43 minutes long, narrated by a British voice actor named Ryan Cooper. With all things going on in Britain, I'm surprised he still has vocal cords. Solo Nobody Concern is a shell company that you're working for, and just as any shell company, it's been made to avoid crimes and displace the population, explosive homeless man included, and let's not forget the liberation from the anti-corpo government. Do I need to say more, or does this ring an astronomical amount of alarms? The Spacers are a bunch of losers with too much free time on their hands, self-loathing included. They decided that turning the poor into colostomy bags is fun. I bet they know how far the bag falls from the body. Loyalists are appreciated by most of the residents by giving them social security, McDonald's without rats in the buns, and a whack-a-mole against stop oil protesters but with an autocannon, which is a big no-no for the corpos. This resulted in the corporations doing smear campaigns on them. Corvids are lefties. Excuse me, I meant populist revolutionaries who stopped stealing genitals
Reggie, where are my testicles?
and decided that they actually want to do something productive in their life. The great leader is the one who fought against the corporations by making an army known as Novo Exército Povo, or much simpler, the Loyalists, nationalizing the industry, allowing ICE to do their job, closing the borders, resettling citizens, and rapid development. He expected the corporations to return and, as any dictator, decided to expand his defenses by conscripting civilians and building orbital guns. The pilots also have a backstory if you're interested in that. For example, we have here Iphigenia Tseng, who's anal retentive. I googled this to find out that there are two meanings. I will leave it up to you which meaning you believe it's correct. Norman Osberger, an immigrant who decided that working to death for that visa is worth it. Sieghart Pulver, a boomer veteran who got the boot for having common sense and not twerking his ass to superiors or being a furry. I am genuinely shocked and I have no damn clue what's happening in America. I bet if I go there I will become a statistic. Phil Bromlin, who can hear the wolves speak and loves golf. Akar Singh, who somehow evaded the alphabet agencies and showed everyone that jet fuel does indeed melt steel beams. Pilar Nabat, an American woman that decided OnlyFans is not enough. Clotilde Alto, a woman who had it all, predatorial combat included. One day, after scrolling the internet, she saw the Johnny Depp trials and decided to surpass Amber Heard in her defecation by turning gestation baths into sous vide. Catherine Onop, a serial killer who undergoes surgery to take on the appearance of their victim. Squin Parrott, a man who huffed paint and got addicted to it. During his job as a repairman, he messed up while doing work on a bike's engine, ending up with a 14-gauge screw lodged right in the middle of his amygdala. Kennedy Spitz is a creature from the swamp.
So have you ever done DMT?
And finally, the man himself, the angry boner who gets everyone's jimmies rustled, the one and only, Precursor James. Max difficulty isn't a joke, I'm warning you. Hey, I forgot to mention something again, which is the achievements. To be more precise, the Radio-Free Solo Nobre achievement. The words Radio-Free are a reference to the CIA-funded stations in strategically important countries. For surgical strikes, I assume. Maybe this is why the Americans had such a hard time in Iraq. With all that was said, Brigador is a fun game that lets you choose the difficulty you want to play at, deal with enemies in different ways with a surprising amount of lore inside of it. 10 Houthis out of how many children got turned into atoms?